So if no one objects, I'll call the meeting to order. So the August meeting of the Union Township Planning Commission is called to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a little work to do on our timing, but that was otherwise very good. So we last met, oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Cody.
Here.
Squatrito.
Here.
Buckley.
Here.
Fuller.
Here.
Darren.
Here.
Jingles.
Here.
Webster.
Here.
Thering.
Here.
LaBelle.
Here.
Okay, and from township staff are Loveberry, Nanny, and Gallagher. So now we'll go on to approval of minutes. So we last met July 21st, and you have some very, I think, very nicely prepared and very extensive minutes. I guess that was a long meeting. We covered a lot of ground. So does anybody have any corrections to the July 21st minutes?
I just see one typo under public comments. It says close at 7:011. I think there's an extra 0 in there. Other than that, it's just editorial.
Anything else? I saw the same thing. I didn't see anything else.
It's the internet.
I move to approve.
So there's a motion to approve the minutes by Webster. Is there a second?
Or
I saw Darren's hand first. I heard Ryan, but I saw Darren's hand first. So second by Darren. Any discussion?
Mike can have it.
Any discussion? If not, then all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. So we'll move on to correspondence, board reports, and presentations. We have some correspondence this month. I'll just draw your attention to them. So Sherry Teal has resigned from the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee. And sadly enough, this is Denise. This is now Denise's actual final Planning Commission meeting. So I definitely want to thank her for her valuable service on the commission the past several years.
Thanks, Phil. Pleasure is all mine.
We've enjoyed having you. There's also a letter from the city about their master planning process. So have a look at that. And then there are our updates, which are now helpfully enumerated individually in the agenda. So I'll ask Ryan, have the ZBA met recently? Anything to report?
No, we have still not met. I'm not sure if we actually have another one coming this month. I don't think I've seen anything, but no, there's been no meeting. It's been fairly slow.
Okay. Any questions for Ryan? Anything on that? And then the next one is Denise for Sidewalks and Pathways.
No, we haven't met. Our next meeting is not until October. The next meeting is not until October. So we haven't done anything since the our last planning commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. Questions for Denise? Okay, if not,
Can I ask a question, Phil?
oh yeah, please.
So we've had two people resign off of the pathways, which leaves three people on. Is that an issue, or as far as decision-making or and parts of their process?
Well, Mike, I was the planning commission member, so somebody from the planning commission needs to go on. And then the other position would be Sherry's, which is a Union Township citizen, which we do have one in the, an application that's came forward for today to discuss. So if in fact the planning commission appoints somebody by October and that we get another one, it won't be an issue.
Okay. Okay. So we need to get that on the agenda for you, Phil, or for the
Well,
board?
it's on tonight's agenda.
Oh.
Under new business.
So, you know, if we act on it, we'll take care of it. If not,
Okay.
But yeah, it's coming.
I apologize.
Anything else for Denise? Sure.
Lisa Cody is with us now for her item.
Oh yeah, and I skipped her. I'm sorry. That wasn't intentional. Yes, Lisa, anything from Board of Trustees?
Okay, the Board of Trustees at our last meeting, we introduced and conducted the first reading for the construction code ordinances. And then we introduced and conducted the second reading for the housing license code ordinance. We approved some budget amendments for the 2020 budget. Okay. What else should we do? We're having a special meeting on September 17th at 7 p.m. for the Recreation Authority Feasible Study Committee, if you wanted to watch that. And also, not from the Board of Trustees, but as the clerk, if you want any information on tracking your ballot or anything like that, if you go to the Union Township clerk page, I have links for all of those, and you can just click the link, takes you right to it, Secretary of State website. Just a little information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I actually have a couple questions. So now that we will actually have a vacancy on this board or this commission, do you have any sense for how quickly the board will proceed on that? Do you still have applications on file, or will they have to open a search?
The supervisor doesn't feel we have a broad enough number of applications, and he doesn't feel he should nominate anyone else at this time. So we're waiting on the supervisor for that.
So if anyone on this board knows anyone that they would want to encourage to apply, they probably should do so.
Yeah, we're accepting applications for that.
Yeah, very good. And then just the last thing you mentioned with the election is the slot on the front of the township hall still going to be a drop-off slot for people to return their ballots for the November election?
At nighttime, we have that, but I have a box that sits out during the day during business hours. I just don't like leaving it outside at night.
Does it sit physically outside the building or in the lobby?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a big black box. We are waiting on one that I ordered from the state. It's a bigger, heavy duty one that can stay outside permanently.
okay. Any other questions for Lisa? Okay, Don, thank you very much. And then I see under presentations, we've got master plan presentation by Peter. Is that supposed to be here or is it supposed to be down below where we're talking about the master plan?
I asked Peter to kind of introduce our topic tonight by just providing a short presentation on the master plan, and then we'll move forward from there into the new business item.
Okay, but I was just wondering whether we should do that now or whether we should approve our agenda and have public comment first.
You certainly can if you'd like.
Okay, well, let me do that, and then we'll have Peter talk to us about the master plan right when we move to that item. So then we'll move to approval of agenda. And so we have two items on the agenda, the master plan discussion that Rodney just mentioned, and then possible appointments to the Sidewalk and Pathways Prioritization Committee. Is there anything else that anyone's aware of that needs to be on tonight's agenda? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as prepared.
I'll make that motion.
Motion is by Darren to approve our agenda.
Support.
Second by Fuller. Further discussion? All in favor, please either say aye or wave.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I think that was an echo of me, so I'm gonna say that that was not a no vote. So I'm gonna say that our agenda was approved. Public comment. So I haven't looked to see whether we have any guests tonight, but this is the portion of the meeting where individuals are invited to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if there's anyone out there who would like to address us on any item that is not on tonight's agenda, they're invited to do so at this time. I guess we're asking people to hit their, is it a raise hand button on this system?
For any attendees, there would be a button at the bottom of the screen that says raise hand.
Yeah, so hit your raise hand button, and if and we'll recognize you, and then give us your name and address for the minutes and limit your comments to 3 minutes. So public comment is open at 7:13. Do we have anyone on the other side? I haven't been, I've
No.
forgotten how to pull that up.
No, we do not have any attendees tonight.
Okay, then I'll go ahead and close public comment at 7:14. So we'll move on to our new business. First item is master plan implementation discussion. And so I'll turn it over to Peter to present.
Thank you. So there are two documents that the Planning Commission will be using and has used quite frequently. Those two documents are a zoning ordinance, which is law in the township and is enforceable. The other document is the master plan. This is a policy guide designed to help community create a vision that they would like to community look like in the future. To kind of expand on the memo that is provided in the packet, a little bit of background information. Of course, the new master plan that we have was adopted by the Board of Trustees in February of 2018. Before then, going all the way back to around October of 2015, there became some chatter and some concern of the Planning Commission as to how the, at that time, existing master plan was working and holding up. That master plan at the time has been adopted in the summer of 2011, and about 4 years later, the Planning Commission was interested in how well it was being implemented and if it needed any kind of update or not. By time April of 2016, the Planning Commission with a motion made the determination to update and amend the existing master plan, and we were to go out and seek consultant help in that endeavor. At that time, there were only two members on the Planning Commission that are still with us today. That is Alex Fuller and Phil Squattrito. So when the Planning Commission at that time decided to go ahead and move forward with a new master plan, we've had a lot new members since that time. The township chose a consultant planning and began to work with in February 2017. And by time the Planning Commission made a recommendation to the Board of Trustees for a new master plan, we still had Alex and Phil with us, but we also had Brian Buckley and Denise Webster on the Planning Commission. And so as of now, we still have 5 members on the Planning Commission with us now that were not on the Planning Commission at the beginning of this process of our current new master plan or when it was adopted. Just wanting to kind of maybe introduce for the first time for maybe some of the newer members what exactly a master plan is and why we have one, how it works. To emphasize again that a master plan is a guide. It is something that the Planning Commission should be using with each project that comes to the township. In memos that we write from the township and assisting you with reviewing and
Peter, excuse me, Peter.
we always.
I don't know if anybody else is getting the feedback, but it's like a reverb that's playing back. So I don't know if everybody needs to go on mute or what. I don't think it's you.
Okay.
It's coming from somewhere.
What about now? Testing 1, 2, 3.
That sounds good.
Okay. So as we, with each project that we have, if you have noticed in your memos that we always include how a project, whether it's a site plan, special use permit, any type of application that comes our way, how it fits in and how the master plan works with this project. So so the master plan is always something that you should be considering and looking at with each project, but it is the zoning ordinance at the end of the day that is the enforceable law of how we determine these projects, if they are permitted or not in the township. But the master plan, again, it is always there as a guide that we should be using. The reason now, we have a zoning ordinance that is, the last time had major revisions to it was in 1991, and it has stayed that way since. We have since then had 2 master plans, one adopted in 2011 and then updated in 2018. It is although not every community does it, it is the better practice to have a master plan before you have a zoning ordinance. Think of a master plan as doing your homework, or an analogy that I've heard used is if you want it, before you decide whether you're going to use an automobile, a plane, a train, or in our township's case, also bicycling and walking, before you decide how you're going to get somewhere, you want to know where you want to get and what you're going to do when you get there. And so that is the master plan, and then the zoning ordinance can then decide how you're going to get there and what you're going to do when you get there. So if you have any questions, I can answer any, and Rodney is here, of course, tonight as well.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Peter right now? Were you going to say anything, or were you or Rodney going to say anything about kind of the specific, what we're looking to accomplish tonight?
I can share a little bit about that if you like. So we recognizing this was a light agenda, as you said, last meeting was a very busy agenda. We've been wanting to bring this item before you for a little while now, and this was a good opportunity. The master plan includes an implementation section. Basically, how do we get from this long range plan to actually having things happen, having some of those goals and those policies come into fruition. And part of that implementation is regularly to review it, as Peter said. This is a document that's intended to be referenced regularly. And you as a planning commission, I encourage you to take a look at it and be reminded of the goals that were set, of the plans that were laid down, some of the policy recommendations that were included in it. One of the policies that was included in the implementation section was for the Planning Commission to undertake an annual review of the master plan. Under state law, under the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, you're required at least once every 5 years to crack open the document, take a look at it, and ultimately decide by motion whether the document is satisfactory or if you feel it needs to be updated. That's state law. The plan itself, you as a planning commission set your own standard in the implementation section that you would review the document every year. And so this was a good opportunity to take a look at that. And so essentially gave you just a short memo that outlined some very basic elements, and Peter did an excellent job of laying down the fundamentals of what the master plan is and why we have one. And then just attached to that is the implementation section. There's kind of two parts to that. There's descriptive elements of some of the tools that are available to you and to the township to implement the plan, the zoning ordinance being one of those. And then after that, there's a 4-page table of various topics and actions that can be taken to help implement the plan. Some of these involve the planning commission, some involve the board, some involve staff, and some are short-term, some are long-term. What I would suggest would be, first of all, to if there are general comments or questions or discussion that anybody would like to focus on with the plan itself, we can do that. But then also to kind of look at this action implementation table or chart to just consider what you as a planning commission may be most interested in pursuing or recommending be pursued as a high priority over the coming year. We don't need to go through these item by item. This can be very informal, and it can really focus on what you feel is most important. There are certain a few things I can highlight if you'd like, but I'd actually rather hear from you as members of the planning commission what you find in the plan as you've looked at it, and looking at what your priorities are for implementing that document.
Okay, thank you. So as Peter pointed out, some of us went through the process in 2017, 18. A few of us went through the process in 2010, 2011, but a bunch of you, several of you at least, are new to the commission even since the 2018 revision. So, as Rodney mentioned, I mean, one issue could be, is there anything in the document? And of course, your homework was to read the entire document exhaustively and think about these things. And so, one option would be if anyone has any general thoughts or comments on anything in the master plan, for example, relative to, how things have changed in the township over the past couple of years or otherwise. And I agree with Rodney, then the next step would be, within that table of action items, particularly the ones that are allocated to the planning commission, are there any that, rise to the top in your mind? I mean, I think, one reaction I had when I was thinking about this and preparing for this meeting was, we got done with the master plan, and then it seemed like almost no time went by and we were into the zoning ordinance. And so we haven't had a whole lot of time to sit back and prioritize those things. But anyway, I'm just going to open it up for comments from you all. And so, anyone who wants to, unmute yourself and jump in.
Well, I just looked at the table, and there were two things that jumped out on me, and maybe it's already being taken care of. Is one is the housing, and have we, because we had the discussion on several meetings about this mixed use zoning and with Mr. Beebe and so forth, is looking at the topic of housing, and are we really addressing the housing as we said in the master plan? And I think we are in the zoning, but is it really, are they in synergy with each other? And then the other one that I saw that I of course, being on the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee, was this non-motorized topic, and looking at the 2011 non-motorized plan. That's getting old, 2011, and this community has changed, and whether that's something the Sidewalks and Pathways Committees needs to look at is that 2011 non-motorized plan, and whether that needs to be adjusted a little bit. So those are the only two things that the only other one that I saw was the airport associated with economic development in regards to the airport. We've not had any discussion that I've seen in regards to the airport.
Okay, thank you. Comments, reactions to that, or comments that other people have on other issues?
I have a comment for the housing. We are working on that, the Board of Trustees. We adopted the new housing license code ordinance, and it regulates the rental houses in the township. And then the construction code ordinances we're working on the next one. So I think that falls in line with that.
Okay, thank you.
I do appreciate Commissioner Webster's in bringing up the non-motorized pathways. I would tend to agree with that. The one thing that I would add to that is that we've talked in the past about access management and our relative lack of an access management plan. I think that's something that we should be focusing on or prioritizing as we move forward in the future as well.
Yeah, that was going to be the one I was going to mention.
Yeah. Agree.
Somebody's sharing something. Not anymore. Okay. All right. So other comments from folks?
Capital improvement plan. Are we supposed to review that, something that's prepared by administration, or how is that going to work?
That's a great question. The capital improvements program is an interesting one because it's actually the Michigan Planning Enabling Act includes a provision that says the Planning Commission is responsible for preparing a 6-year capital improvements program for the township. If in any township that has a water or sewer system, so of course ours covers that. However, the act also says that the Township Board of Trustees can essentially take that authority, and in the Charter Township of Union, that was the case quite a long time ago. And so you do not have that responsibility formally. However, the State Planning Act still, and your own ordinance still give you the authority to make recommendations related to capital improvements and public improvements that are planned for the township. So you have an informal role, but not the formal role that the state law gives you as a starting point.
Right. As long as I've been here, I've never seen or reviewed the capital improvement plan for the township.
We actually, I mean, much of that is really in the hands of the Public Services Department related to water and sewer utilities. And they do certainly have capital improvements planned for that element. The other element that the township is involved in is in terms of what the Economic Development Authority does in our 2 DDA districts. And in fact, I was just in a meeting earlier this afternoon with that board talking about potential projects that they would like to do in the DDA district. So the activity is somewhat divided by the nature of the authorities, but the township certainly is active in that area and working on being better at it.
So I'd imagine that the utility department submits their capital improvements to the board.
Right, because yes, as I said, the Board of Trustees is essentially taking that authority, as many do, taking that authority to approve the capital improvements program. But it does not change that you as a planning commission can make recommendations to the Board of Trustees, or quite frankly, to the Economic Development Authority Board, if it's something in a DDA district. If you have recommendations to make as to what you feel are high priority items, just as the sidewalk committee makes recommendations to you and to the board, you certainly at any time can make recommendations related to capital improvements.
Are we approving the capital improvement plan or just making recommendations?
Well, in this case, all you would be doing is making recommendations. The authority to approve it was taken by the Board of Trustees. So you do not have that authority in our community.
Right. Prepare an annual update 6-year capital improvement plan that coordinates with the master plan.
Yeah, that, as I said, that's language almost straight out of the state act, but for the Planning Act. But that same act also gives the Board of Trustees the ability to kind of recapture that authority, and they have done that here. So.
Okay.
I'm going to come back to that housing topic in regards to on page 43 of the master plan, but it's page 22 of the packet. It talks about conduct a housing market analysis to determine the needs and whether zoning currently matches with the market demand. And then it says consultant. Is this something that this township needs to consider doing at this time due to all the changes in regard to the university that's happening, possibly the casino and other agencies? Is it time? And I don't know when the last time it was conducted. When was the last time we had a market analysis conducted?
I don't believe there was one associated with the master plan. I don't know if there was one conducted before that. The question of housing analysis is really looking at where are the gaps. What in terms of the full mix of housing options available to residents and potential residents of the township, what's missing is really the question that housing analysis would try to answer. It's actually a question that the city of Mount Pleasant is looking at in their master plan. One of the important questions they're asking is about what they refer to as the missing middle housing, and that's it really is reflective of what you might call worker housing or workforce housing. It's it's housing for folks that are looking for inexpensive housing, but good access to stores and other amenities that they need to be associated with, and close, obviously, to their work. It's not low income housing, but it's for folks that are certainly not on the high end of the income scale. And that is a problem. Housing affordability is a problem in many places in the United States. If the housing's affordable, it's housing that you wouldn't want your dog to live in. And to try to find inexpensive but high quality options, especially if you have a family, can be a significant challenge. And so that's where a housing analysis might look at those kinds of gaps and identifying them and trying to find solutions.
So is this township willing to collaborate with the city in order to really look at the analysis? Because it's not just the city, since we're so close. I mean, again, you don't know when you go one from another unless you're paying attention to a sign. So if the city is considering that, are we as a township also partnering with them to discuss that?
Right now, there's no activity there. The city is simply working on their master plan, and housing, of course, is identified as an important issue, as it was even in our master plan. There's discussion of housing and providing the right mix of housing in our plan as well. If the Planning Commission views this topic as an important one, it certainly can be an item that you identify and provide direction on and ask for the, you can direct the staff to see if we can pursue something with the city and start having a conversation about some kind of a housing study that would involve both communities. If that you find is a priority you'd like to pursue in the coming year or two.
Okay, thank you.
Denise, can you tell us a little bit about the Pathways Committee? Are they looking at connectivity of all of Union Township resources and even getting to the point where you were going with the city and the connectivity with the city? You know, we're trying to do sidewalks, we're trying to do pathways, but where it doesn't make sense in the rural neighborhoods, like out where I am, west of Township Hall, you don't even have bike lanes. And I noticed the non-motorized is trying to get all of our government agencies working together. But I think it's to get the connectivity, to be able to have neighborhoods out a little further and still give them the opportunity to ride a bike or walk along a road if you don't have sidewalks, where it doesn't make sense to have sidewalks or pathways. But I guess my question is that committee looking at the connectivity all the way out to the rural neighborhoods, where Ryan lives, where, being west of Union Township Hall, just those neighborhoods, trying to bring them in to make it more like a city situation where you can ride your bike to whatever, ballparks, stores, restaurants, what have you. I didn't know that's how far Pathways went.
I think, Mike, to answer your question is that one of the what we put forward in the last meeting was at least try to get the connectivity in our ring road that, around the Lincoln, so that we would have at least one side of the road completed. And then that would be the next step, is looking at where would be the next part that you really, part of the township that you really want to begin to connect. Because we also know that not every road will have that connectivity. That's really, that will take years, decades to even consider doing. But the other part of, the master plan that's talked about is working with the road commission,
Right.
and out into some of the rural areas, and as they start to pave roads, if they could just do one side to increase the shoulder, where you then begin a pathway of some sorts that people can safely walk or ride a bike on just one side of the road, that would be so much better than having nothing. And that's what the road commission. And we know how that can be difficult for them to add even, 3 feet to one side of the road or the other.
Right. And a prime example of that, speaking of the ring road, is Lincoln Road there, right down from Union Township Hall. So I walk that, and you have a beautiful sidewalk at McDonald's now.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're forced to get out on the road until you get to the assisted living
Mm-hmm.
and
Lux.
and then Lux, and then you're forced back on the road.
Mm-hmm.
But there's the farmland there between the condominium and the assisted living, that's a perfect spot for a widened bike lane where you transition from sidewalk, bike lane, back to sidewalk, where it makes sense. But again, I'm just wondering if Pathways Committee is looking for those opportunities to where we can start looking at the capital improvements for non-motorized and making suggestions for the road commission.
Well, Mike, I can tell you that, yes, in that last meeting, I think that we did a wonderful job in talking about what our priority in regards to what we present to, and I think Rodney's going to take it to the Board of Trustees as part of getting involved in a budget, and how do we get into that budget cycle. So yes, that has been discussed, but again, that would be the next part of the Pathways Committee. What's next? You know, whether it's all Broomfield, where you go all the way out and we connect Broomfield at least one side to Lincoln, which we do not have. And I know that the Bluegrass has been discussed. Isabella Road has been discussed. I think those are the two biggies, and then the Lincoln Road.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
So Phil, Doug LaBelle has his hand raised.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I missed that. Doug?
Yeah, no worries. I just wanted to go back to when we were just talking about the missing middle. I know this has been a big topic in the city, and it's been discussed at length multiple times without any success of coming up with a remedy. So just an observation, you know, food for thought is what I've noticed in the city, and I'm hoping that the township doesn't fall in that same category is the city has gotten more and more proactive on kind of telling you what materials to use, how to design things, what landscaping that they're requiring you to do, stormwater management, all these different things that are adding cost to a developer's, you know, project. And by doing that, the housing is no longer affordable because of all these add-ons for these projects. So the affordability is going to be missed out because the cost of the project's not feasible to do. So one, here's the cost of it. Well, we can't charge, you know, we have to charge, you know, $1,200 or $1,500 a month in rent to be able to make that project viable. So therefore, the only way we can do it is if we do it this other way, but the city wants us to do all this other stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, and most of you are smart enough to understand what I'm saying is if the numbers don't work, the developer's not going to build it. So unless somebody's going to help subsidize the difference, which I don't think any of us would want to do that. So the affordability is the whole part. I totally agree with this missing middle, but if the numbers don't work, a developer's not going to do it. So what I'm saying is as long as we don't require the developer to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, that require another 40% in cost of the project, then we could possibly have some affordable housing to meet that need. But if we fall in line with the city and what they've done the last 5 years that I've been here, it's just been unbelievable to watch the growth in that direction, a negative growth in a sense of mandating or requiring the developer to use this type of material, put in the fencing, put in this, put in that. And at some point, the project doesn't make any sense. So it either doesn't get built, which we've seen on Mission Street and in the city in general with residential, or it stays vacant, or again, you're going to put some dump there. So that they're missing the whole point. And I just hope that we as a township don't fall into that same category because it would be a shame. Thank you.
Doug, are people looking to rent now or are people looking to buy now? Because it really is very appealing to buy a less expensive home, maybe a smaller home in a little more dense neighborhood that still offers a new house. You know, that seems to be attractive. But I'm trying to drive my kids to buy now with mortgage rates the way they are.
Yeah, so to answer your question, yes, now is a great time to buy if you can find what you're looking for. The problem is the inventory to buy is very low. Most people want something move-in ready. Well, that's almost non-existent, especially in the affordable market. You know, maybe the location's bad. I've got one on Bradley across from the middle school, sits right out in front. It's all been redone, repainted, new floors, all that stuff, but it sits out in front of the trailer park. So nobody wants that location, even though it's all done. So what I'm seeing in general is people want this here at this price, and it's not out there. So if they can't afford it, it's something like a fixer-upper, or it requires a lot of work to do. And most people, most homeowners or buyers don't want to do that. Not everybody, but most of them. I don't know the exact number. My guess and my experience would be about 90% of the people buying houses don't want to have to go do a bunch of work.
Correct.
I mean, even as simple as putting in new carpet and new paint, they just don't want to do that. It's just too much work.
But to that point, so what would we do as a township? What could we provide a developer or even single family homeowners? What could we provide to them that would make it cost affordable to build a house, you know, say a new development where the neighborhood's developed, gives you the amenities of township sewer, township water, underground utilities. But what is it people want that we could offer in the township that would be attractive to the people making $30,000 to $50,000 a year? Is that our target audience that we are trying to find something for?
Income wise, I don't know what that target audience is. But at the same time, you got to find a developer that's willing to take the risk of developing something. Obviously, the more the township or municipalities can assist these developers. I'm not saying they've got to give a bunch of money to them or a bunch of tax breaks. In some cases, it might require a tax break. In some cases, not. But it's working with that developer to try to make that project viable. That's going to add tax base to the township. That's going to provide a need. In this case, we're talking about housing. But also, you got to allow for the developer to make some money, because he's not going to do all the work and spend all the time and effort if it doesn't make any money.
Right.
So there's got to be a rate of return. If there's no rate of return that's decent, he's going to go somewhere else to do it, or he's going to go put it somewhere else.
And that usually comes down to our ordinances and the density that we allow, right?
Well, yeah, certainly, you know, there's the ordinances to work with too, but just, you know, the city has gotten very, very strict, almost to the point where a developer's coming to do something, and it's not like the developer's a customer. They view the developer as, well, here's what we're telling you you need to do. And it's really off-putting, to be honest with you. And like I said, I've only been back doing this for 5, almost 6 years now, and I really just observed the first year. I just sat in on meetings, you know, just tagged along for learning purposes. And I was really taken back I almost felt it was offensive to what they were doing. And it's only gotten worse. You know, here I am almost 6 years later, it's only gotten worse. So, and we've had multiple conversations with the city, and again, I don't need to go down that whole rabbit hole, but I just don't want us to fall into that same category. We've been able to really benefit from what the city's done. The new mercantile bank. I mean, that was originally going to be on parcel B. Well, that got squashed for some other reasons. So they couldn't come to an agreement. So the townships benefited for, you know, housing. A lot of people are building out here because they can't do what they want in the city. The city requires the garage to be set 20 feet back. They require originally an 812 roof pitch. Now they've at least lowered it to 612. Well, a lot of people don't want those. Right. So, and mainly it's the garage in garage orientation to the house. So nobody's building in the city. I think there was one house being built in the city over off Brown. I think it's Brown, over somewhere over on that by Pickard and Brown, I think it is. One house. It's just, so we are benefiting from the restrictions that are in the city. And I just hope that we don't get caught up in the mindset that's over there, because pretty soon people won't build in our township. They'll go to Deerfield, Chippewa, you know, Lincoln, anywhere but here. So I'm just encouraging us to be more open-minded than what's going on with our neighbors.
Thank you. Other comments?
Phil, Ryan Buckley has his hand up as well.
Oh, okay. I can only see his name and I don't know where those things are. I'm not seeing the little things. Anyway, Ryan, go ahead.
And I apologize. I'm not on video right now because I had started the meeting in the car, so I didn't want to get off and try to switch to the computer now. I appreciate Commissioner LaBelle's comments, and I think that it's just evidence that it sounds like that topic is something that we talk about, potentially with a consultant. But I think it just kind of demonstrates the need for us to have that type of conversation, and how do we potentially learn from what the city may have done well or not done quite as well, and how do we try to balance affordability with some sustainable development as well. So I think it certainly makes sense, especially given the content of our I guess maybe the tone of our master plan. In my mind, that we do kind of try to prioritize and define for ourselves what does that mean to us in terms of how we handle that, and if that means that we're working with a consultant to do so, then I think it's probably worth prioritizing over the next couple of years prior to getting to our next master plan. I did want to, I guess while I have the floor, I just wanted to point out a couple other items, not to just jump away from the housing issue, but there's a couple other items that I thought were important for us to continue to talk about. One of them, and I can tell you from the table, it does not appear to fall kind of under our main responsibility, although I believe the trustees are involved. When we talk about water quality, obviously we have the Chippewa River, and one of the issues that we've talked about in the past that's come up from time to time is, particularly on page 42, it's at the bottom. It's the frequency of septic system inspections and things like that. My understanding is that there's no state law that governs the inspection of septic systems, but that's up to kind of the local municipalities. And I do think that when we talk about water quality and where we are, and we talk about PFAS and we talk about all these different things, I think that that's an important issue that we could take up, kind of given our the environment that we're surrounded with in Union Township. And I think that was the only other one that I wanted to make sure kind of got brought forward. But I've rambled on for long enough. I do support Commissioner LaBelle's efforts to kind of continue to focus some conversation on that particular area and make sure that we have a good understanding of what it is that we do want as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
If
Were
I
those
could make a
big
comment-
poodles in the background?
If I can make a comment in regards to the septic tank, septic system, Ryan, just to let you know, the time of transfer from the county of the health department, as a seller of a house with a septic tank, you have to get that time of transfer. They look at it. So the health department and as our master plan says, they are about inspecting septic tanks, drain fields, and your well. Just as a recent seller.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Denise.
Wasn't that the issue? It was that they do it only at the point of sale? Something like that.
Well, yes, as a seller, you do have to, it's called time of transfer, so you do have to do it as a seller. But now what they're doing in between, I don't know, but certainly at the time of sale, yes.
All right. Other points that people want to bring up? Alex?
Yeah, under the industrial, it says revise industrial district to permit retail. Looking in our new ordinance that we just drafted, retail is not permitted. It's The special use maybe. I'm wondering if we want to address that. Accessory use.
Which part of the table are you in?
The very last one on 44.
Oh, okay, okay, I got you. Seems like that would have been a good one to discuss with the zoning ordinance.
Right.
Other folks have any thoughts on that one?
I think it certainly bears clarifying as to what we're talking about with retail. I remember having that conversation a little bit, but yeah, if there's conflict there, then it certainly should be clarified.
Well, I think what I remember about that discussion, and I'm going to blank on the actual terms now, but we had these in the future land use map. There's community commercial and all this sort of thing. And I remember some of this discussion about, well, what about these like specialized sorts of things like little R&D firms and high tech stuff and kind of blurring the lines between traditional industrial and commercial. And I think that's probably what this is driving at. And it's probably, I think the reason it's here is because there was some kind of aspirational sort of thinking going on, which is good. I mean, but how you would operationalize it or whatever, I don't think we ever really got to that point.
So I'm going to share a screen here for a moment. This is, this is the zoning map that we have right now. And you kind of see it, the gray and the dark gray areas are the industrial. We have a lot of commercial, of course, along the Pickard Road corridor and Remus Road. The one area where I think there might be value in having the conversation long term related to what the proper mix of land uses should be is in relation to Isabella Road and River Road. Isabella Road out here at River Road, you have industrial. You also have industrial here on River Road. There are elements where they're small lots. They're probably not going to truly be an industrial development. They're more like office or kind of service businesses and things. And so at some point it might be worth having them looking at those areas, maybe kind of doing an area plan in particular for this area of the township, which is centered around the old village plat that's right here. And then the area around it, for example, this area here is the Speedway. The sewage treatment plant is right over here. So it's kind of an odd mix of things. There might be value in kind of looking at that area again and considering whether to make some changes to how it's planned and maybe the mix of activities are allowed there. There are other areas that are industrial, especially down here south of Pickard Road, between Pickard and Broadway, where you have an industrial park going on, where we would not want that to turn to retail, because that industrial land is valuable as an employment center, and is close to the freeway interchange. So it's in good industrial land with good freeway access is very tough to find. And so we definitely want to protect that as industrial, but some of the other areas we may want to look at it again at some point.
Well, there's also industrial down Lincoln Road with some frontage on Lincoln.
Yes, yeah, this is the old gravel pit here that's been reclaimed, and yes, there's some industrial parcels in here. Yep. Similarly, yeah, some kind of smaller parcels, more office than industrial, I think, in some cases.
Yeah.
But it is actually, industrial land is a challenge. It is scarce. Many communities don't want to zone for it. When you hear the word industrial, all they think of is smokestack industry or junkyard, and so it is. Industrial land is an important asset to the community because of course it's an employment center. That's manufacturing. That's warehousing. That's office or research, whatever it is. Those are all employment center activities, and finding the right land for the right project is always a challenge from an economic development perspective. And so it is important to protect the industrial land we have, especially land that, as I said, that has good access to freeway, to the expressway, because that's one of the key site selection criteria for manufacturing and warehousing type projects.
Feel free to jump in if anyone else has a comment. Just trying to pull up the future land use map here. So I assume Jennifer's keeping a list of the items that have been raised for the minutes.
I have some notes. I'm sure Jennifer's taking some notes. But...
Okay. I guess the question then would be, what's next? What I suppose it would be kind of prioritizing the list. I would think.
I think, in terms of what is the outcome from this? The outcome, I mean, it can be simply the discussion and raising the awareness about the master plan. You also, if you choose, could identify priorities, whether it be 1, 2, or 3, or that you feel as a commission are you would like definitely to recommend be pursued. I know Denise had mentioned the housing analysis, whatever those might be. Certainly you could go to that level of even having a motion that says these are our priorities for the coming year, if you wish to do that. And it's not something you need to take action on tonight. This is something that can be, kind of contemplate the discussion you've had tonight, and we can include this on a future agenda. And just see where that goes. If it goes to some point where you make a motion and decide on a formal direction, that's wonderful. If it, as I said, if it simply refocuses us on the master plan and trying to take steps to implement it, that is good as well. James Therian has his hand up, Phil.
Oh, James, please.
This isn't anything I just have just a question, not that I think it needs to be on any list. It's something that Doug and I occasionally come across on board of, or what is it we do, Doug? With the taxes and all that good stuff?
Board of review.
Board of review. I'm sorry, my brain's.
You got it right.
Code enforcement. How does code enforcement work? Because occasionally we'll get somebody coming in and they'll want their taxes lowered due to a neighbor having basically a junkyard or not taking care of their home. Their claim is they've been into the township, and I can't validate that to complain. I'll say complain. How does code enforcement work? Who does that? What's the process for code enforcement? If like I were to come in and say my neighbor Alex Fuller won't mow his yard, he's got tractors and dumps oil in the ground, and what's the procedure for something like that?
Peter, do you want to maybe take a minute? You can maybe you had that example over on Betty Lane that you just went through a process with that. Maybe kind of talk about how start to finish what you do in terms of that code enforcement. Oh, you need to unmute yourself first.
Everyone hear me? Can everyone hear? Okay. So when we get a complaint, basically to start with, our enforcement is by complaint. And so when we receive a complaint, file the complaint, review the complaint, I will go out on an inspection. There are times when I will ask the complaint if I'm not able to visibly see the problem from the road, that if I could maybe come on their property to maybe get a better look at what's going on with the neighbor's property. All of our complaints remain anonymous, and so the complainants are protected that way. And so once I do my inspection, I'll take pictures, keep any notes, and then I come back and I review what I have found with the zoning ordinance, and I will, if there's a violation found, send a notice to the landowner to the effect of, 1, there's a violation, 2, how that violation can be remedied, and give them a timeline as to when to contact me to let me know that they've received the letter, that they are working on it, and giving them also a deadline of when I feel that the problem should be remedied. At times, if the applicant reaches out, or excuse me, not the applicant, if the person who has been sent the letter reaches out to me and says, well, I can't have the, one, I admit I'm in violation, but I can't have it done by the date you've given me. If I have it done by this date, can you? I often let them stick to that own self-imposed deadline. And if I go out and I find that there maybe is something that's unpleasant that I could see where the neighbor is, rightfully complaining about, but there's no violation per se with our zoning ordinance, then I reach out to the complainant and let them know that, at that time there's nothing in the zoning ordinance that can be enforced to remedy their issue with, said neighbor.
Thank you. That's perfect. I think the last person that we had come before us, I think it might have been Doug, that recommended, they go in and talk to you. I don't know that they did do that. I don't know that they ever did that. But at least now that we understand the process, that's something that will be helpful that we can share along. So thank you, Peter. Appreciate that.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So are people content to I mean, we've had a good discussion, I think, and we've kind of reminded ourselves of some of the issues that are out there. What's your mood or what's your sense? I mean, as Rodney pointed out, one option is to kind of give ourselves a pat on the back and let things kind of percolate for a while and come back to them. We do still, I mean, the zoning ordinance is not complete yet, then that could come back to us depending on what, happens from here. So it isn't like we happen to have a low agenda this month. It isn't like we will again for, in the future. But on the other hand, if someone, feels strongly that, that there's something there that really needs our attention, then I guess I would encourage you to speak up.
Ryan has his hand up.
Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
I like the idea of, if Rodney's been taking notes, that, if I'd like to be able to say that we actually have an agenda of items that we're trying to work on. And so if the others are in agreement, I'd like to see maybe a list compiled of the things that we've discussed tonight. And I would say offhanded that in terms of the code enforcement specifically, I would be interested in talking a little bit more about the one that we have on the final page here of code enforcement. Talks about strengthening consequences for code violations and encouraging compliance. But I would personally support seeing a list of the things we've discussed, talked about, and maybe trying to prioritize them at a future meeting so we can have something that ensures it stays on the agenda and it's something that we can work towards, because I think there's some key issues that we kind of just get away from for a little while, and then a year goes by and we think, man, we should have addressed an access management plan, but we didn't, and it might be a good way to keep us on track for the future.
Okay, thank you. So does it, Stan?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Buckley. I think, we've got people coming and going on the commission. I know I went off for a number of years. Sometimes now that I'm back on, I can't remember if it was the previous time that we were talking about issues, because these things are in a bit of a continuum. So you don't know. So the whole idea of putting these in one document that we can, start looking at these things and revisiting them and prioritizing them so that we don't lose, especially as individuals. I know Denise is going off, off the commission. So you're losing a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. Whomever comes on, it's like, I don't know if it's like coming in the middle of a bad movie or exactly how people might see it. I guess it depends on what the issues are, but having a master plan done, certainly that would have been coming into the middle of a bad movie if a person was coming in when Denise tried to desert us earlier in the year, but we held on to her. So, but in all seriousness, I totally agree with Ryan. I think it's mapping is what it is. It will allow us to be a little bit better at, I know James came onto the council recently, and where do you jump in? How do you really know? And you can't make informed decisions if you don't know what the priorities are. So just to underscore what Ryan said, I think is really important.
Good, thank you. So does that sound like something you could do, is to prepare a list of the items that we've talked about in really in no particular order, Rodney or Peter, and then, put them back into a future agenda for us to further kind of refine and see where things percolate.
I certainly can do that for you.
Okay.
And can I add also that it might be a good idea if we kept that document as a reoccurring document within our packets, that we can look at it month to month, and at the end of our meetings, based on what action we've taken, may prompt a commissioner to say, can we consider this as an agenda item for next month, so that we can, again, strategically kind of do this work, so that, there's a little bit more order. So that might be every meeting I get the who's on the council, their term, and it'd be good to get a list of what those issues are that we discussed so that we can recall those every meeting.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any other comments on this particular topic? Okay, not seeing anybody wave at me, I'm going to.
I'm going to waive. I just want to clarify something. My example for the code enforcement of Alex Fuller's yard, he has an immaculate yard. It's better than mine. I just, just in case anybody was wondering, it's beautiful yard, beautiful home. So, Peter, you don't need to do anything about Alex.
Very good.
James, you need to talk to my next door neighbor. He wants me to get mine. He wants me to get mine together. So I'm going to start working on it. Really hard.
Hire your neighbor. I think he'll do. He's got plenty of time.
I live next door to James's dad. So.
Ah, okay. All right. Okay, so thank you for that discussion. So we'll move on to our other agenda item. So our other agenda item for tonight is the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee. As Denise and, well, as Denise pointed out to us or reminded us, there are now 2 vacancies on that 5-member group, one of which is hers, which is the Planning Commission representative. And then the other one is created by the departure of Sherry Teal from that group, who is a Union Township resident member. And as was pointed out, there is 1 application. So I guess I'm going to suggest we take the Planning Commission representative first. The remaining 8 of us all have been reappointed. We all are serving. I don't know when the next term expires, but it won't be till next year. So is there anyone here who's willing to step into that role as the Planning Commission representative on the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee? And maybe it would be helpful for Denise to tell us, like, over the past year, how many times have you met? And is there a set meeting time, or is it basically by arrangement of members' schedules?
Right now, the committee met on Mondays, the first Monday of the month, like 6:30 to 7:30. And we've been very good about just an hour. However, I believe we're only going to meet quarterly, right, Rodney?
That's correct. Yep.
So actually, the Pathways Committee right now is set on a quarterly for an hour, and it was on Monday night. So that's where we are right now.
Okay. So it's out there. Is there anyone who's interested and or willing to consider doing that?
Denise, I'm not sure if, or sorry, Commissioner Webster, I was informed that I may have been your replacement. Have you heard that, or has that been discussed?
That you were the replacement? No, I don't. It hasn't been discussed. It would have to come from this commission, I believe. But no, I have not heard anything.
Okay, yeah, because Jeremy McDonald, your chair, had mentioned something to me about that. So I didn't know where everything was with that or what was going on. So
the Sidewalk Committee is officially a committee of the Planning Commission. It's created by ordinance, but the ordinance says that it is a committee associated with the Planning Commission. The appointments to that committee have varied. Some appointments in the past have been made by the Township Board. Some appointments have been made by the Planning Commission. But you absolutely have the right to appoint your own member, representative on that Sidewalk Committee. And quite frankly, I would recommend that you go ahead and pursue the appointment of the other member, because the Sidewalk Ordinance does say that the committee is a committee connected to the Planning Commission. And so my recommendation would be to pursue both appointments. but to certainly make your own appointment for the Plan Commission member.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's how I think we've done it. We've done the appointments. So I'm a little confused. Doug, are you saying that you're interested, or are you saying that someone was volunteering you?
Well, I believe somebody was volunteering me. I really don't have the time, but if it had to be done, I could help out for at least for a period of time.
Okay. Well, it's on the floor if there's anyone who is willing to consider it.
I put my name in. I think I'd be interested in that seat, or one of those seats.
Okay. Well, I think we
want me
would.
to.
Yeah, I mean, since you're a commissioner, I think we'd probably take you for that one first.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Darren.
Well, I mean, we got to share the load with these subcommittees, right?
Thank you very, very much.
So I'm going to take that as a self-nomination or a volunteering. Are there any others? If not, then I would entertain a motion to elect or select Commissioner Darren as the Planning Commission's member on the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee.
So moved.
Support.
Motion is by Webster, and the first support was by LaBelle, I believe. Any further discussion? I'm going to say go ahead and poll us, just because it's an official action, and we've been doing that for all of our official actions.
Okay, Therin,
Yes.
LaBelle,
Yes.
Shingles,
Yes.
Webster,
Yes.
Fuller,
Yes.
Darren,
Yes.
Squattrito,
Yes.
Cody,
Yes.
and Buckley.
Yes.
Passes 9-0.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And so then the other seat is the Sherry Teal seat. That's a Union Township resident. There's an application in your packet from Matt Mertz, who lives in the Bamber Road subdivision. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And
My suggestion with regards to this application has been on file with the township since February. It's a general application for a potential opening on various boards and commissions. The township, and Jennifer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've contacted the gentleman recently, have we?
Yes, I personally reached out to him prior to putting him in the packet.
Okay, so all right. So in that case, I will leave it to you as to what you'd like to do. You certainly can. You could take action if you wish. You also could invite him to, to come to a meeting, or participate in a meeting, and where you can chat with him ahead of time. So whatever your pleasure is on this.
Well, just a point of clarification. He did apply specifically for the Sidewalks and Pathways Committee.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. I apologize. Yes, you're absolutely right on that.
I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
You know, the only comment that I have, and I don't know Mr. Mertz, but he really wants to be on this committee because he wants a sidewalk. And I understand his plight. I understand the wheelchair and so forth, but he wants a sidewalk so that he can get to the Union Township, and it's very personable. And unfortunately, I think the sidewalks, when you get on that committee, you really have to be very global in regards to what is best for the township as a whole, not as an individual. So, from his application, that's what I got from the application, by just that comment that he had on it. Now, again, I would encourage you to really maybe meet him and see if he has more of a global thinking of sidewalks and pathways, and not just a one personal reason why he's on the committee.
I agree with Commissioner Webster.
So are you thinking you'd like to invite him to join an upcoming meeting? And maybe just talk to us, maybe give a brief, presentation or explanation of his interest? Respond to questions?
Well, again, I'm not going to be here, so, but my recommendation, and again, by that just little reason for on the application, and he may not have expand and gave a full reason, there may be more there, but just from that one statement, I would say it would probably best to have a discussion with him so that he understands the reason for the Sidewalk and Pathways Committee as a whole, the reason why for the township.
Mm. So what is thoughts from the continuing commissioners, the folks who are actually going to end up acting on this, if we decide to postpone it till, say, next month? Or someone, I mean, the application is there. We've heard some discussion. We've had some recommendations. Anyone can make a motion, or one can, voice an opinion on what we should do. So
We need a motion to postpone if that's the case.
I don't think so, because I think it's more of an affirmative sort of thing that,
Okay.
if no one nominates him, then I think it just gets postponed. But what I'm looking for is a consensus, what do people want to do, and do people want to hear from him, at a future meeting, or, what people's pleasures are.
Yeah, I would like to hear from him at a future meeting, just as Commissioner Webster had stated. I had the same concerns that she has.
Okay, and how are others compatible with that?
Does it say he uses a wheelchair? He's in a wheelchair?
Yes, he is in a wheelchair.
Okay, so he has perspective, a different viewpoint than maybe anybody that's, and I don't know if there's anyone else on that board that's in a wheelchair, but.
There isn't, but again, if the reason why he wants to be on that is so he can get the sidewalk on Bamber, so he can get to the township building. That is different, versus if he's really coming, how do we help with the disabled residents in our in township? That's totally different.
I mean, I agree that we should have a conversation with him. I just think his perspective might be quite interesting. Yes, a discussion with him, I think, would be great.
Okay, unless I hear otherwise in the next moment or so, I'm getting the sense that that's the general pleasure of the group. And so I'm going to request that, I guess, that he be contacted and invited to attend our next meeting via this platform. And perhaps I'll recognize Lisa. Do you have a comment?
Do they do the Sidewalk and Pathway Committee, the meetings through Zoom?
Oh, that's a good question.
We didn't have to do that in our last meeting because we weren't under this, but depending on, no, our last meeting, it was in Zoom. I'm sorry, I take that back. It was Zoom. So yes, we would do it through Zoom, and in our next meeting, who knows what would be in October for us, but yes, we did it the Zoom the last meeting.
I mean, if you can also ask him if he has, access to Zoom, or if he could even be able to attend the meetings through this, the way we do it now.
Phil, do you want to kind of reach out to him informally and maybe ask a couple of those questions? Would you, or would?
I can. I mean,
what's your pleasure with that?
Well, it depends.
I see he has an email.
Yeah. I mean, if the group is wanting to hear from him and hear, more about his reasons for being on the committee, then I'm inclined to just let the township office contact him and advise him of that for our next meeting. If, on the other hand, you want me to have an email exchange with him and get that information, I can do that too.
Well, to me, I think it's just clarification of why he wants to be on the planning commission. Is it for the better good of Union Township, or is it specifically like he stated, I can't get to Union Township, I'm in a wheelchair, no sidewalks equals no go. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the only reason.
But I'll just say that a person, you know, we've gotten a number of these applications. Some of them have been as brief as this. Some of them have been a little more expansive, but they're usually not very long. And it could just have been his way of making a dramatic point, right? I'm in a wheelchair, therefore, you know, it's, you know, the sidewalk situation affects me in a very visceral sort of way. But so anyway, there's two options. One would be, you know, that the township office will contact him, invite him to our September meeting on here, presumably assuming he has that access, and you know, alert him that we're interested in hearing a little bit more about his interest and so on. Another one that's been suggested is that I email him and attempt to kind of collect that information, you know, through an email exchange.
I would recommend, since you're going to be appointing him, that the commission would meet with him. That would be my recommendation.
I agree. LaBelle.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, I think that that's probably the safest option. I mean, you all have to vote on it. So, so let's just go ahead and do that. If Jennifer's been in contact with him for other purposes, maybe you can, you know, can do that. Let him know. First find out if he participates in electronic meetings and in particular a Zoom meeting, and if so, invite him to the September meeting.
The reason I ask is because he used to go to the city meetings a lot, and I'm the liaison for the board. So I go to the city meetings too, so I've seen him there a few times. And I haven't seen him on any of the virtual meetings, but I don't know if maybe I just can't see. I don't know. That's why I asked, because he went to a lot of the meetings.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, we definitely should find out, because I assume most of these groups are going to be meeting online for a while. All right, so we'll do that, but we filled one of the slots, and we may be able to, you said you're not meeting again until October, right?
October 5th is the next meeting date.
Okay, so our next meeting will be September 15th. So if we appoint someone at that meeting, we'll be able to have someone in place for that. This, I assume, is the only current application for that. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Do we have any, other than word of mouth, do we have any other mechanism for collecting applications?
We can advertise, certainly. Obviously, posting on the township website, we can advertise in the newspaper. I mean, there's a number of ways that we could seek applicants.
Yeah. I don't know that we've gone as far as newspaper advertisements, but I certainly would think having it on the township's website would be reasonable. And of course, if anyone on the commission, again, knows someone, you know, that you want to encourage to apply for it, I guess I would encourage you to encourage them to do that. Same way with the planning commission itself. Okay, so so we'll postpone further action on that just by not taking any additional action at this time. So other business, is there any other business that needs to come before us tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to extended public comment. So this is the portion of the meeting where anyone is invited to address us on any issue, whether it was on tonight's agenda or not. And so we'd ask you to hit your raise hand button and be recognized, and give us your name and address for the minutes, and limit your comments to 5 minutes. Extended public comment is open at 8:35. We still have no attendees, right?
No attendees.
So hearing none, we'll go ahead and close extended public comment at 8:36. And final board comment. Any final comments from board members?
I just have just a couple of comments just in regards to, Jacob Kane and the notice that was in our packet regarding the city master plan. I mean, I've been pretty involved with it, since it kind of came out over the last, probably, it's been at least 12 months, if not maybe 16 months that I've been involved with it. We have developments on Mission Street, so some of what's proposed on Mission Street's really gotten in front of us and tried to really get information to people along Mission Street. So if you're not familiar with the city master plan and what they're proposing for Mission Street, I'll just give you a quick 60-second synopsis, if I can. Is that basically on Mission Street between Bluegrass and Bellows, they want a boulevard in the middle of the road with 2 lanes of traffic and on-street parking, not to mention roundabouts at Bellows, Preston, Broomfield, and Bluegrass. So as soon as we saw this, we've certainly given our feedback on, not really in support of all of that, not to mention they would have to utilize a lot of the property owners on both sides of Mission Street to be able to put all that in. And in some cases with the new proposed zoning ordinance, which requires the building to be built up on the road, there wouldn't be enough room. The parking would be in somebody's building. So some of that just doesn't really make any sense. I've also spoken with MDOT. They are not on board with that plan. Parts of it, yes, but not the whole plan what's being proposed. I've also spoken or corresponded with over 60 businesses in this area, and none of them are in support of it. So whether you support it or not, or whether you're familiar with it, I would encourage you to get educated. Whether you're for it or against it, just provide your feedback either way. More or less just letting you know what the city's proposed without even having, the people that are not making decisions that are going to be affected without even discussing it with them. So, and I think I had contacted the city back in November with an email with all the feedback that I'd gotten from these 60 businesses as well as MDOT. So, and I'd be happy to share that letter if somebody wants to see it. It was back in November 4th of 2019 that I emailed it to the city. So, but I would just encourage you to get educated on that city master plan, mainly Mission Street, what's proposed. It's completely unreasonable from a developer's perspective, but would certainly encourage you to get involved and provide your feedback.
Thank you. Other comments that people have?
I'd like to wish Denise all the best in their future endeavors.
She'll be back. She'll miss us.
I don't know.
I don't know. She's moving closer to the lake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that she'll be back. I'll just mention really briefly, I did attend the online meeting for that presentation involving the utility study, the rate study, and I learned a lot. I had no idea about a lot of that stuff because I'm in a subdivision that doesn't have utility service, so I found that it informative. So I think that it was recorded, and I don't know if it's already been posted somewhere, but I think it must be accessible. And so if you're interested in that sort of thing, I'd encourage you to check it out. Some interesting changes coming. I mean, the township is looking at having to make some decisions going forward about how it's going to structure its utility rates, everything from hookups to the actual monthly rates that people, or quarterly rates or whatever that people pay. So I appreciate that was brought to our attention.
I believe it was intended to end up on the township's YouTube site. I don't, I haven't seen if it's there or not. But Lisa Cody has her hand up.
Lisa? Yeah.
I just wanted to thank Denise Webster for her time on the Planning Commission and the Sidewalk Pathways Committee, and Sherry Teal for being on the Sidewalk and Pathway Committee as well.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing that as well. Other comments? Seeing and hearing none, then we have completed our agenda. So this August meeting is adjourned, and we stand in recess until September 15th. Okay, see you all then.